and let us all do we can to build a better future.
As it stands, corporate media is currently smearing and slandering Dr. Cornel West, the Green Party, third parties, RFK Jr., who's running in the Democratic primary, of course. Corporate media wants to control a narrative and really is doubling down their efforts into smearing anyone that will be challenging Joe Biden in the 2024 election cycle. And we're still in 2023. So we've seen the articles, we've seen the videos, we've seen a lot of quote unquote liberal individuals, vote blue no matter who, Democratic politicians saying we all need to rally around Joe Biden. But see, this is what the Democratic establishment wants to do. They want to shame people. They want you to feel guilty. They want you to feel embarrassed about thinking for yourself. So first, I want to pull up this video of Nico House calling out the Democratic establishment voters because, again, they still hold on to 2016. But again, vote blue no matter who. Last I checked, you guys won in 2020. Okay? Now, it is going to be in a few months down the road. Of course, we're still in 2023 right now. But in 2024, there will be another election cycle. Now, you've tried the fear tactics. You've done it before in 2016 and in 2020. But that's not going to work this time around. So first, huge shout out to Nico House. He was a guest on my show yesterday. So please be sure to check out some of the segments that we did on yesterday's show after this live stream, of course. Let's check it out.
Establishment Democratic Party talking heads have the dumbest takes on third party voters like this one.
To vote against Trump by voting for signs. I don't care. Like there's lots of those. But I bet there are a bunch who afterwards were like, oof. If I could do it over again, knowing that Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania were close, like they thought those were blue states, blue wall was secure, that they would go back and vote for Hillary.
Hi, Jill Stein voter here, and I can tell you that you're full of shit because none of us feel like that whatsoever. In fact, in my mind, I always think if more of y'all actually voted for Jill Stein, then you probably wouldn't have had Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. What I always find interesting about people like Ryan Grimm and the like, when it comes to third-party vote shaming, why are you so upset that we decided to vote for somebody who actually represents my interests? Why aren't you mad at people who are saying that Hillary Clinton, a warmonger, Joe Biden, a warmonger, racist, segregationist, sex pest? Why are you not more mad at the people who are saying, I'm going to vote for them because they represent me? Like, you should be more mad at them. Like, I don't care who I voted for. I voted for the person who most represents me. But they're saying that literally evil people represent them, and you're not upset at them. You're upset that we didn't vote for them and that they don't represent us. So what does that say about you, Ryan? Maybe you can get better outcomes, Ryan, if you tell people to vote for those who represent them rather than voting against people who don't represent them. I feel like the former makes more sense.
Precisely. And look, when it comes down to the vote blue no matter who, I didn't want to interrupt that video because, again, there's a lot of points that Nico House is bringing up, especially when it comes down to the voter shaming. I voted for Dr. Jill Stein, and I voted independent in the 2018 midterm election cycle. I voted independent in the 2020 general election, and I voted independent in the 2022 midterm election cycle, and I have no regrets. Now, again, my reasoning is simple. I don't feel represented by the Republican Party, and I don't feel represented by the Democratic Party. Neither party represents my values. Both parties are war profiteering. Both parties have representatives and U.S. senators that do insider trading. Both parties are in favor for extended terms. They're not in favor of term limits. Both parties are filled with dynastic families that lead to further and further corruption. Both parties, again, have turned a blind eye to the American people. Both parties are... The real truth is both the parties, the Democratic and Republican parties, their best interest, what they care about the most, is themselves and how they can further enrich themselves off of our labor and off of our suffering. And this is something a lot of diehard Democratic voters and Republican voters need to come to terms with. You do not have a seat at the table. And this whole idea of voter shaming or don't support third parties, Why are you trying to change my mind? You think yelling at me or wagging your finger in my face is going to make me come to the realization that, oh, yeah, you're right. Thanks for yelling in my face. I promise to follow your orders. No, that's not going to work. And I encourage my audience, and I hope this triggers some vote blue no matter who people, especially, to think for yourselves and to vote independent, to vote third party. And you know what? If you're burnt out by electoral politics and you don't want to vote at all, that's fine too. I don't blame you. I encourage everyone that's watching this to think for yourself, because the vote blue no matter who people want to bully you into becoming their little pet. You don't owe them a goddamn thing. So I want to pull up this video of Tulsi Gabbard talking about the Democratic elite, the establishment. So let's play this video. She was recently on Fox News, and she defends both Dr. Cornel West from the establishment smears, as well as Democratic primary challenger RFK Jr. Let me pull this video up. Apologies for that.
So what do you think about this? Why are they freaking out about this? Is this a real threat to a, I guess, weak president?
Well, I think they definitely do see it as a real threat, which is why you're seeing all of these headlines pop up. They're showing exactly how concerned they are. The sad part is anybody who knows Cornel or Bobby Kennedy Jr. knows they're good people and they're doing what they're doing because they care. I don't agree with everything that they stand for, but they're motivated by a desire to serve.
But you would think that they're just the worst people ever. By the way, you hear the whisper.
Exactly.
Forget the whisper campaigns. There, you know, it's all just a ego exercise. Well, maybe it is a little bit for the no labels people, but certainly not for RFK Jr. That man is vilified morning, noon, and night. And I don't agree with him on a lot of issues, but I do on some of his stuff that he's worried about the medical cartels and all that, and perhaps on the war issue. But I mean,
they're vilifying him in the same way that they vilified me back in 2020 when I ran for president, in the same way that they vilify anyone that they deem a threat. I have no doubt that they'll get started on Cornel West here shortly.
They don't like his, ascots or something. Maybe,
that's the problem, is they'll find whatever they need to. They'll make up whatever they need to smear and destroy people because they don't have a conscience. They don't care who gets hurt in the process.
Now, again, what Tulsi Gabbard is bringing up, especially with the slander attacks, with the smears, and with these articles that, again, all these attack articles that you see about third parties, about Dr. Cornel West, about RFK Jr., I call those articles the rent was due today. Now, again, when you look at those articles, they're basically all one and the same. Click, copy, paste. And what is the one thing that a lot of those writers and quote unquote journalists say in those hit pieces, especially about third parties? They keep on bringing up 2016. They keep on bringing up the fact that in 2016, Hill Dog lost because of the Green Party voters. Just want to throw this out here. To those who constantly keep on attacking the Green Party, you do realize, journalists, that the Libertarian Party got even more votes than the Green Party in 2016, right? Again, I see how you like to target people, but okay, fine. But let's be generous here. Let's say the Libertarian voters and the Green Party voters didn't turn out to vote for their respective candidates. Let's say they either chose to help out Hillary Clinton. It still would not have changed anything. Trump was winning the Electoral College. He was going to win it. And not to mention, vote blue no matter who, and journalists that constantly want to smear Dr. Cornel West and say that he's going to be a spoiler candidate. Why do you think independents would want to vote for a Democratic candidate? What's their incentive? Why should they do it? I mean, there's a reason why people are voting independent and third party in the first place. I don't owe the Democratic Party my vote. And I'm going to tell you how I'm going to play it out. If I don't see any independents or third-party candidates on the ballot, I'm still not going to vote Democrat. And I encourage my audience to do the exact same thing, because both parties are inherently corrupt. Both parties work for the top 1%. And both parties want to keep on controlling the system as is. You don't have a seat at the table. These politicians, they don't like you. They don't think about you. They don't respect you. And yes, I keep on saying this over and over again, but it needs to be drilled in people's heads about what these goddamn bastards in Washington, D.C. really think about us. Because if they actually did care about us, if the parties really did give a damn, we wouldn't be even having all these problems in the first place. Personally, they probably want to keep things going as is just to keep us all desperate and attacking each other. And that's why we're seeing an intensified attack against third parties.
They have a terrible record.
They have a
on
terrible
top of
record.
it.
Exactly. They can't make that case to the American people.
And the hologram presidency doesn't help either if he's a hologram candidate. Now, I want to play a moment from Cornel West to your point last night. I think it speaks to why the left is freaking out about him. Let's watch.
The people of Ukraine right now who are suffering, and I'm in deep solidarity with their suffering, they are being caught between this proxy war between the American empire and the Russian Federation. Federation.
I just spoke to the foreign minister of Ukraine. We're saying that they are just victims in this proxy war. He would say, you're out of your mind.
That's a really thoughtful question.
Yeah, I mean, it's just defensive. Again, that they won't put President Joe Biden up side by side with these other people who are challenging them. Instead, just saying, oh, you're just a spoiler, shows how arrogant and entitled President Biden and his whole administration is,
they're
including
afraid.
the propaganda media who's pushing this whole narrative and doing their dirty work for them and trying to smear these people who are saying, hey, yes, I'm raising my hand because I want to serve our country.
And not to speak of the fact that I think the last poll, we showed it last night, I believe 44%, a plurality of those polled most recently said that we've given too much in the way of arms and aid to Ukraine, not too little.
Right.
Yeah, you would think we'd be able to de-escalate the situation there. Now, again, it's a completely different subject matter, but all in all, we have given billions of dollars in aid, whereas the American people, no matter what state you live in, be it a small town or a big city, red state, blue state, whether you're on the West Coast, East Coast, or in the middle, we're all struggling. Our roads are falling apart. Our bridges are falling apart. Trains are being derailed. Mass inflation. People are struggling just to make ends meet. Hell, you got people working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and it's still not enough. You have people being evicted from their homes and apartments, small businesses being shut down. Where's our relief package? Where's the deal for the American people? Oh, that's right. Congress is, meanwhile, sitting on their hands, enriching themselves, doing insider trading, not serving the American people. Vote blue no matter who, and diehard Republican red voters. What's it like knowing that you are in an abusive relationship with both parties that constantly cheat on you and beat you? I mean, that's the real truth. All right. And I understand why some people are loyal to a party. I get it. Maybe it makes you feel comfortable. Maybe you feel safe. But you're being abused. And watch, the minute you start thinking for yourself, or you start stepping outside the two-party system, you're going to be attacked and yelled at and smeared and bullied. But you don't have to stand for that. And that's why I'm voting independent. That's why I support third parties. I take pride that I interviewed Dr. Cornel West. And you know what? I'm going to have him back on the show again. And I send this invite to not only other Green Party candidates that are running for various seats for this, across the country for 2024, but I invite libertarians and other independents to be on my show. Why? Because there needs to be a platform and a voice for the voiceless. The American people need to know that there are other options out there, and that we need to start building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. You don't owe the Democratic Party or the Republican Party your time or your respect or your vote, because they've abused you long enough.
Right.
So
They're not willing to have that conversation. Immediately they go towards labeling people,
You're pro-Russian, you're a
Exactly.
Russian sympathizer.
Exactly.
You can't hold two thoughts in
Right.
your mind at the same time.
Right.
That Putin is a terrible person, but perhaps this needs to come to an end.
My hope is the American people can see through this. They can see through all of this nonsense and recognize that in the Declaration of Independence, our government is given their power by us, we the people. So these elections that come up, we have the ability to bring about the kind of change we need to see in this country and frankly in the world. And we've got to make that happen.
Yeah, they don't have the consent of the governed on this.
They do
Tulsi,
not.
great to see you in
Nice seeing
studio,
you.
no less.
Now, one last thing here I want to bring up, and that is how, again, you have people fearing third parties and freaking out about third parties. Now, of course, you do have this unnecessary hype about no labels. Now, I said this before, no labels is nothing more than a centrist think tank. But again, they're using it as a way to further intensify attacks towards third parties. And it looks like it could work out, maybe, potentially. Because again, if you cause enough people to panic and freak out about the idea of third-party candidates potentially changing the whole political system, you're going to have the liberal machine, the neoliberal machine, work overtime just to cause further fear. Case in point right here. Shout out to Case Study QB. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter.
We're here to make sure that the American people have an option. And the option is, can you move the political parties off their respective sides? They've gone too far right and too far left. I'm never in any race I've ever spoiled. I think the race is to win. And if I get in the race, I'm going to win.
Sorry, Joe, but many of Biden's allies on the left and in the liberal media are not going to let that happen. The ladies of The View, for example, they freaked out over this, claiming a third-party candidate would deal Biden a major blow. The two-party system is so deeply entrenched that just this no-labels third-party group getting in is only going to serve as a spoiler to one side. I tend to think that it ends up being a spoiler against Biden in favor of Trump. I worry is that in the effort towards centrism is actually going to boost extremism.
I think this is the stupidest thing ever. And so if you, John Huntsman or Joe Lieberman, I love you, Joe Lieberman, but you've got to stop this, Joe. Joe, this is insane.
Gotta love it when the ladies from Review start panicking. I'll never forget when my colleague Daniel ripped them apart when they were smearing Tulsi Gabbard.
This will hurt, I think, President Biden. When you look at the election in 2020, arguably as much as Donald Trump or as much as President Biden won, Donald Trump lost. There was a loss involved. There were a lot of people coming out to vote against Donald Trump rather than for President Biden. So I do think they'll be peeling away voters that will directly hurt President Biden if this was to go forward.
Very good, and I encourage it. I'm happy that's happening, and I'm happy that they're panicking. I am excited that the establishment is crying. Because again, when I look at these smear tactics, and I think we've heard enough from The View, that's enough of a headache already. I still want to keep my mind and body still together, because after all what you hear is a bunch of screeching on The View. The fact that these quote unquote establishment media outlets are using the same propaganda that we saw in 2016 and 2020 tells me that they are they are not creative. They are not smart. They think that you're stupid, and they want to control how you think. Now, you don't owe the Democratic Party or Joe Biden your vote. They have to earn it. So let's have democracy in the chat, because maybe all of you know better. All right. Maybe all of you can understand and actually really lay down the groundwork about why we need to break away from this system. So let's have democracy in the chat. Type 1 if you think, you know what, Kit, I'm going to give the Democratic Party and Republican Party another chance. They've done good work for us in the past, and they'll do it again. They'll stand for us. You'll see. This time around, it's going to be different. Type 2, no, they haven't earned my vote of respect. And I don't know if I'll vote independent or third party. I might not vote at all, but I won't support the Democrats or Republicans. We need to push back against these smears and slanders that we're seeing towards third-party candidates. Break away from this mentality. Wake up to the fact that the establishment is going to be walking all over you. As soon as you start standing up and speaking out, you'll notice that those bullies will have nothing left to say to you. In fact, they'll keep on yelling at you and yelling at you like some punk. So live rent-free in their head. Be their villain. Be their bad guy. Trust me on it. They won't know what to do. This election cycle is going to keep on getting more entertaining. So stay tuned to Hard Lens Media.